Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With, an audio interview series presented by WFPK, Independent Louisville, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Wherever you're listening from, if you can hit the subscribe button right now, and a rating or review if that's available as well. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest is Houndmouth, longtime buddies of mine. They got a brand new record coming out called Golden Age, and it's got a big new sound. We'll get into the ins and outs of that, which includes writing with beats, the fan reactions after hearing the new singles, how parenthood has affected their songwriting, and also their split with band member Katie Tupin. It's all in this interview. Kyle Meredith with Houndmouth. Houndmouth, it's been a few years now, and we get the first taste of the return of Houndmouth with a song called This Party, and all hell breaks loose on the internet. Now, I've had the luxury of knowing you guys, outside of the industry for a little while now, so I sort of knew something was coming. Like, you've been teasing that things are going to be different this time around. And it's been a few years since the last record, but you basically exploded your sound. Like, was that on purpose? Does it feel like that's what happened? That you just said, okay, that was that. To hell with it.
Yeah,
to
totally.
hell with it.
Like we I think that was very intentional. Like it was just it was like a
Yeah, it wasn't intentional in the sense that we were like, oh, we gotta change our stuff up, but it was just like, oh, well, we just started writing things and
that's how they went. So
yeah.
then that's the direction that we took everything else.
Yeah.
So
And the kids with suspenders hated it.
Well, that's the thing, though. When you guys arrived, and it was sort of when a certain genre was in vogue, and it was. I don't know what is the folk rock revolution or the Mumford.
Well, and we were obsessed with the band for a really long time.
Right.
And we were young and we were learning how to make music and using what we knew, what we grew up on. And then eventually we were just like, yeah, we did that. We heard it.
Yeah, the first couple of records were heavily influenced by our influences growing up, and then we kind of found out what we wanted to be, like how we wanted to be perceived, and this is the new album.
Yeah, but that's a hard thing for a lot of bands to break out of. I mean, a lot of times once you're kind of put in that box, most bands, a lot of bands at least, they don't feel safe kind of journeying out of that.
For real?
Yeah.
Well, that's like,
what's that like?
But it's like it's not just like being like obsessed with music, but it's like being obsessed with like creative process or like how things work and how things are made. You know, it's like I always relate to like, okay, I wanted to play guitar when I was young, so I was like, oh, I'll play until I get good, and then I got obsessed with something else, and then now I can play guitar and then use that to do something else. Right.
So as far as, I don't know, it sounds like you're just writing songs, and luckily you arrived to this place, which I do love. I've heard the full album now, and it's almost carnivalesque in a few points, and like this glam rock carnival is sort of the sound of it that kind of filters through it, which is a lot of fun to listen to. But once you start seeing that the songs don't sound like the old songs, is there that point where you're going, this is going to be really different? Did that moment arrive?
Not really.
Yeah, I feel like the songs are. It's still kind of the same almost subject. It's the same kind of songwriting. It's just wacky
as
sounds.
far as like structurally,
Yeah.
As far as like basic like structure, but that's what we played with. So we had like the basic structure, and then we got together with Rado and Sean Everett. So it was like, now how can we mess with the creation of the songs
And beats.
and
There are lots of beats, and when you hear a lot of beats like that, you start to worry about the drummer.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, Shane.
I was definitely scared when we busted out the Linn drum machine.
Yeah.
And, at certain points, there's like a straight time and there's a half time, and I'm going to have to I figured it out live. And
There was a very stressful moment between when the album was kind of wrapped and when we had to start rehearsing it. There was like that little period of downtime where we were like, how's this going to work?
Was it much for Shane for you to adapt to that? I mean, as you're talking about, was that having to put yourself in a different spot to kind of figure out how this was going to work for you?
I think so. I was very adamant about I would never want to go to a click live. I never want to do that. I never want to play like triggered things. I want it all to be real. Yeah, I'm a halftime kind of guy. So when I have to play straight time, it freaks me out. So it was a lot of practice. like relearning a lot of stuff, and I had a blast.
I was gonna say it's
working
a lot of
it
fun. Like it's to relearn things, not to relearn, but to learn things, to learn how things. How can I say
To learn
this?
how things is.
To learn how things is and how they be is great.
People don't think it be like it is, but it do.
Well, Zach, I mean, there's also the whole thing about how, the bass and the drums always kind of interact. And when you're sort of playing with a machine in a way, you're like, how does that change that dynamic of just the feel as you're talking about? Does it alter it?
I think Zach and I have always been pretty locked in,
Yeah.
and I mean, as we can be.
As we can.
At least we think
I'm thinking
we
about
are.
a very like Paul McCartney vibe to it, where like the bass could actually be like I don't want to say focal point for lack of a better word, but like another thing that you actually hear as opposed to just backing up the kick drum and all the hits. I think it could be like a
His-
cool melodic
Funny
thing.
you said that. McCartney always recorded bass last, from what I heard. And when we finished the song Golden Age, we realized we didn't have a bass on it. And we were mixing it. We were like, oh man, we need, and the song was complete. So you need like a pocket bass player. So Sean sent the track to Pino Palladino. He was in like South America.
Yeah.
And he ended up playing bass on it.
I mean, one of the greatest bass players of our time.
And-
Pino Palladino.
Yeah. And it was at the very, very last thing put on the song.
Wow.
So getting back to the learning of the songs, that was my bass line that I had to learn. It's just,
We were all like,
following
good
Pino
luck, man.
Palladino. It's like, well, it's not going to be exact.
Yeah.
But it's just,
And with all respect to Pino Palladino, what we're actually saying here in a long stretch way is you had to learn the parts from the guy who replaced John Entwistle,
well, yeah.
which in itself is just a complete mountain. Are there any other guests while we're on that subject on the record besides Pino?
Yeah, so Rado produced it, and Rado played a lot on it. And so we were at Sonic Ranch in El Paso, and there's a band playing next door, and we went over and we're like, yeah, we got an idea. We want to bring everybody over individually and play along to a click track for like 7 minutes. And here's the key to the song, but they hadn't heard the song, and they just noodled for 7. And all these guys kept coming over and doing it.
Yeah.
One
And
at a
then-
time.
Yeah. and then so we had like 20, 30 something tracks, and Sean and Rado played the tracks while we just recorded the song over it. And they would just bring in random moments at a time.
How do you fill out the credits to something like that?
They seemed very happy to just do it.
Just do
They
it.
were doing, I think, just kind of a pretty down, slow Nashville country record, so they kind of wanted
Very-
to get
very
weird.
chill, cool
So I
vibes.
think they were just super happy to come
7 minutes
over.
just go crazy, like,
Right.
with
Yeah.
just nothing but
with
the
your
key.
sitar, rock that sitar.
And there's a lot of interesting sounds all the way through it. And like I said, we all got that right from the beginning. So this party comes out, and as we've alluded to, it's a different sound for the fans. And there's this whole thing, and you guys do a video sort of poking fun at the whole. Whose idea was that?
Matt Folks, he's from Louisville. He's awesome. He's an awesome video maker. And he one day we just like first day of the responses, we were all like, oh man, people really hate this.
I mean,
And
did you
then-
anticipate that a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. And then when
Yeah.
it happened, we're like, oh, this is cool. And then we were like, oh, but it kind of hurts my feelings. And then
Oh yeah, we were like laughing, but deep down we were just so sad.
Well, because we
I
don't
get it.
focus on the positive comments. It's easy. Like it's
Nobody does.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun to go through and read the negative comments and just kind of have a laugh amongst ourselves. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so Matt Folks just sent us this video that he had made, and we was just spot on.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
And all those people now get a featured spot, right in the spotlight of the
That's right.
of the single.
Promote the haters.
Yeah. You all have always had a really good way of writing about the seedier characters in life. I think we've talked about that in previous interviews on the albums. A lot of the characters that are in Houndmouth songs are from the seedy side of the character track. Are those still alive on this record? Do we hear from those? And if they are,
I think so. I think it's more like a broader perspective of, you always hear about like when you write something. All right, so like if you're writing folk music or something, like back in the day, people wrote about trains because trains were the jam, right?
right?
And now it just doesn't make sense. So it's like they're just things to like talk about and write about. And unfortunately, all of the olden time things are connected to this like folk music. And then there's just this is now, and there's
So the
there's
characters
things to talk about.
The characters are still seedy, yes, but it's like a stealing your cryptocurrency kind of scene.
Well,
as opposed to a train robbery kind of
Then
scene.
modernized.
Let me
a
just
bit.
bring up the title of that closing track with World Leader. I mean, are we talking about the seediest character here? Is that what we're getting at?
I don't know, man. That was just like I think that was like a breakup song. So it was like a couple of my friends were going through a breakup, and I wanted to write about it, but I had this hook, World Leader. I was like, I don't want to lose that hook.
But to drop a title like that, by the way, in 2018, you're just setting yourself up for this question.
Right.
Yeah, totally. But then it's fun to,
It can be a personal world. It doesn't have to be the actual world. It can be
Look
your
at
bubble,
that.
if you will.
Man.
That's just how I interpret it. I mean, Matt wrote that. That's how I interpret
That's
it.
a
I
really
don't
good
know
answer.
How you interpret it, but
that is very personalized. So yeah, everybody should have their own spin on things. If there's a song that's about something, doesn't freaking matter because everybody has to put their own spin on thing at the end of the day. And that's what makes us human in a world of robots that are trying to collect all of our information and analytics and data. They're trying to make us one, but we're all actually separate.
It sort of went in a darker and a lighter spot at the same time.
Exactly.
It did. This is not a question, by the way. I really love the song Golden Age. You mentioned it earlier, especially coming after that opening track, which is, I don't know, it's kind of like an intro track to the whole thing, is what it feels like and everything. And then just launching into that, that's a really awesome moment.
Cool.
That's not a question. That's
Cool.
that's a statement.
yeah,
is-
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that'll be edited out. Thanks, Kyle.
It's gonna be like Kyle, like I hate all the songs.
He
Ruined
hit his,
my day.
He hit his mute button.
I know. I saw it. His cough button.
Oh.
That was like the first song written. It was it started as like a country song, like a Stonesy country song. Then I just put straight time over it and went into it. But I like the idea of writing about characters a lot. And there's a lot of characters, metaphorical characters. Of course, I'm not going to tell you anything what it's about because it's not my.
because that's what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It is worth asking though, because there are parents in the band now.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's making its way into the music? Because for a lot of artists, that's sort of inescapable. Whether you're writing directly the song to your child, which can be horrible and sometimes great. Unknown Mortal Orchestra right now has a song called Honeybee, and it's fantastic. And that's about his kid and everything. Most of them are sort of bad. Throughout history, or cheesy.
You wouldn't believe the amount of bad songs I've written about to my daughter, just like a strumming a guitar while she's sitting there, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. It's
I
just-
think
it's-
that's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know if any of that's made its way into the record?
In a roundabout way, yeah. But I think the approach for this record was more of a whole, like a more of a vast outlook on everybody, instead of just like. Of course, it's all going to be personalized to some degree, but it's mostly like a human collective
Concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. How important was stepping away then? Because there was lots of family time. We are now. You played shows, I know, intermittently. Especially once you got off tour. But there, what I would say is, for the trajectory that the band was on, the success that was being handed to you, as everyone yelled the word "pink" in the crowd at the same time. To step away for as
I mean,
long
we
as.
laugh, but that'll never get old. Like that's so exciting.
And they do it at the wrong points. They do it too early every time.
I love it every time.
Yeah.
though.
It's awesome.
Like, no, you're too soon. But to have all that going on and then to take a little bit more time than usual, to me that would feel a little bit nerve-wracking. Was it important to step away? Did you know it was going to take this long between records?
I didn't think it was going to take this long, but I'm super glad that it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To really get out of our comfort zone, and then that kind of turned into a comfort zone.
Right.
And I mean, you can easily get cabin fever, but we would have these breaks during sessions, and go home for a while, or go to El Paso and then back to Los Angeles, or play a show. I think we had a couple fly dates in between sessions, but
Yeah, it was weird.
it was a really cool way to figure out this new sound and who we are now as a three-piece. And I wouldn't change anything about it. I love the way it happened.
Well, thanks for making the seg there about the three-piece, because they definitely want to ask about that. I mean, that was also a big thing for the fans, a big sort of shock out there that the four-piece that started. We're talking about Katie Tupin, not in the band anymore, and for all the reasons that people leave bands. What was that like to go through as everything is also happening to you guys in the positive sense?
Well, I think it was great to make two records that were well received with Katie, but what happened was when she left, we had to find a creative process for include like with just the three of us, sans one, and it became much more like individualistic, and then we branched out with Rado and Everett, so it's pretty much just a finding a new process.
Yeah.
And that in itself became a journey. Like
Yeah.
It's like
I would
becoming
love to
a whole new
keep finding
band.
new things.
Because at this point, what on stage you're 7-piece, 8-piece?
Seven right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I mean, that's it must feel like a completely new band.
Oh,
Definitely.
totally.
And it's so much fun playing these new songs and kind of making the old ones a little different. So we're not playing the same thing. Keeps us entertained.
Yeah.
And we got great guys out of Louisville. Drew Miller and Graham Gardner and Aaron Craker.
Caleb Hickman
out of St. Louis, Bloomington boy now. So we got another Hoosier in the band.
So what we did was we had so the two guys, Graham and Drew, were playing sax, and after the record, it was like there wasn't too much sax on the record, so they kind of had to switch up. So they started playing like synth and like drum pads and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was cool, seamless switch.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I've only been able to catch the stuff online so far with the new lineup, but it's a lot of fun. And I mean, it does say a lot for a band because that can shake up anybody, to go through any kind of member change, especially when you're right in the middle of promoting a record in such a way. Although I think it was sort of towards the end of the actual promotion cycle, but to kind of be able to pick it up right away and say, "All right, let's do this," like that's
Here we
completely
go.
commendable. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
I'm always such a big fan. I'm really glad we did this, and for the record and everything else, congratulations, guys! It's nice to have Houndmouth back.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
The new studio looks phenomenal.
Thanks.
You
I did
guys
this
crushed it.
with my own two hands.
Oh yeah, okay.
You should see the calluses that Kyle Meredith has.
I put on the Ben Harper song, my own two hands, and I did it. That's all I did. I
Oh.
just put on the song.
What a
That's what I
montage.
did.
What a montage.
And it happened.
Just name drop everyone. This is great.
And my thanks to the fellas in Houndmouth. The new record is called Golden Age. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on YouTube, you can keep up with your favorite artists and interviews that way, or the podcast version, where you can also leave a rating and a review, and it would be a really big help to keep this series going. After that, head over to WFPK.org, especially Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. That's when I do a show. While you're over there, you can also catch some bonus episodes of this series. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.